Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Ladies' Day on Big Loz Official. This is a very prestige episode because with me today I have, and I've had to write it down because these lists are so long, the 2018 World's Strongest Woman, who is also 2 times Europe's Strongest Woman, 3 times Britain's Strongest Woman, 2020 pound for pound strongest woman in the world, the deadlift world record holder in 3 different weight classes, owner of Chaos Strength Gym, and also huge ambassador for the female side of the sport, Rhianon Lovelace. And I also have the current Wales, UK's, Europe's, and world's strongest open weight woman, Rebecca Roberts. How are you two doing?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. It's been another long, hot day, but we're still smiling. How about you, Becca?
I'm not too bad. I just got back from the gym, so I am absolutely shattered. Paul's not let me have any time off since the competition on Sunday, so it's a nightmare.
What are you currently training for, Rebecca?
I'm currently training for World's Strongest Woman now. I was going to do Strongest Woman in the World next month, but that's been cancelled. So it's a bit too late to kind of get my strength up ready for Brits now. So we've just decided to do like one phase and then do like another longer phase into Worlds. So it's giving me time to kind of lay a bit more groundwork.
It's a really nice long period to prepare for. What about you, Rhiannon? Would you have been doing Strongest Woman in the World? Is that a weight class competition?
Yeah, it was something that I know me and a lot of my girls were pretty excited about. Pretty gutted it's not happening, but you know, we just kind of get back on track. I am going to do Brits because I'm going to try and get to the Arnold UKs, which we've got to go through Brits. But then, yeah, same as Becca, we've had the Worlds events, so we're just getting cracking with them, really, make as big an impact as we can come November.
So for those who are watching who aren't aware what we're talking about, there was recently a post on social media because Strongest Woman in the World is a qualifier for the Arnold's in Ohio, isn't it? And it's run by Strongman Corp. But I mean, I guess in some ways it's good news. Depending on which side of it you sit on. Rogue have taken over the Strongwoman side of it. The bad news is that they've gone to an invitational process rather than the qualifiers. So they're just going to be inviting athletes this year. So it's good in as much as if we can get the women streaming live, same as the men, that's perfect. That's what we want. But obviously we want a really fair and clear qualifying route too. So has there been any further communication about what that might look like going forward?
I think it will be like invitation only, but I'm hoping that they do invite people that don't have a pro card as well, because at the Arnold Pro this year for the men, Luke and Tom Stoltman didn't have a pro card and they were still invited. I know that the majority of the invites are going to stem from who did the Arnold Pro this year. But I am probably going to try and email them and see if I can still get an invite. So it might be a bit blessing in disguise because I could still get an invite to the Arnold Pro without even having to do a qualifier for it. So that's what I'm hoping.
The pro card system is quite messy because they're not really a thing here, are they? And even
exactly, like it needs to be kind of understood outside of America. This pro card system, you know, to like Becca to kind of stand there and deny her accomplishments and deny her ability on the grounds that, you know, she doesn't have this American system card. It's just baffling. Same with like Annabelle Chapman, you know, she doesn't have a pro card. She's the worst champion. You know, you kind of invitation wise, I think you know who the top 10, 12, 15 girls are. I think they've earned it. I think they've, you know, very much kind of proven themselves. I would just like to see like a couple of underdogs, some newer pros kind of given the opportunity as well. But yeah, I don't think it's hard to select kind of like the top 12 girls.
Yeah. And I know for the men's side of it, you don't need a pro card to go to the Arnolds because they had their, I mean, even their qualification system there's a big question mark over it because they used to have the qualifiers all over the world. That didn't happen for the last 2 years. This year, they've sort of resumed those more local competitions, but they don't appear to be qualifiers for the Ohio event next year. So, but I know because Loz has never had a pro card, and he went to the Arnolds because he wrote a letter stating his claim. Please, I've done this. This is, you know, everything I've achieved so far. These are the people that I've beat, and they're going to the Arnolds. So I know it's a system that's worked in the past, and hopefully it will for you too.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly for the men's side of it, you never needed a pro card because, again, that's separate. The Arnolds isn't Strongman Corp, is it? But it's very confusing.
It is, especially when you're trying to explain it to people that don't know too much about the sport, and it's just like there's so many federations and things like that at the minute. It can be
Try
really
explaining
confusing.
it to people that do know about the sport. I don't understand it all.
Yeah, I think it would be. I mean, when you just look at kind of what you've done, like a 400-pound stone, Becca, is that right? And you know, your deadlifts like north of like the 250. Your press is well into the three figures. I don't think you can start kind of like deny. And in terms of like who you've beaten, pretty much everybody in the game within the last 12 months, like, you know, one comp or another. And yeah, I think the kind of to ignore that based on the fact that she hasn't been to a pro card comp, I think that's just a bit silly.
So we need to use the comment section of this video as a petition to get Rebecca Roberts to the Arnolds next year. But
I don't think we can argue it. Like, I don't think that's even a kind of like a tangible argument that Becca shouldn't be there, to be honest.
No, and I think if you go to OSG this year and retain your title as well, it's, you know, you're unavoidable.
Yeah.
But yeah, because obviously you beat Olga at World's Strongest Woman last year, and Olga is a multiple champion at the Arnold, so and an absolutely incredible athlete. Anyway, we've gone way off. So I was going to start with asking you both how you got into lifting, because I know you're both quite young, aren't you? How old are you?
Yeah.
I don't feel it.
None of us feel it. Rebecca, you're 27, aren't you?
Yes, 27. Still a baby.
Rhianon, care to share?
26.
26. Because I know, Rhianon, you started very young, didn't you? Tell us about that and what age you were. What drew you to the gym as a teenage girl?
So ironically, like my mum's a full-time athlete, but I hated everything sports. I was a big geek, maths, physics, and I started doing some self-defense because I was getting quite badly bullied. I ended up having quite a bad accident, ended up having like a lot of spine damage. So I went to the gym to basically just get my physical strength back. You know, being a teenager on crutches, quality of life wasn't fun. And I just wanted to be able to, you know, tie my own shoes, just generic things. And I just fell in love with lifting a little bit more weights than I did last week. And then it was genuinely just some really nice old man that I used to see in the gym constantly actually said, you know, like you could compete at this. Like this is a sport. I quickly Googled powerlifting, signed up to my first comp, and then rest is history.
And how did you meet Luke? Because obviously he's very much part of the team, isn't he, at Chaos?
So I met him in the gym. I was a powerlifter. I was pretty good at this point. So I think I was a world champion at that time, and he there's loads of people saying like, you know, we've got World's Strongest Man coming down to the gym, and I didn't care. Like I couldn't have given two shits about it, to be honest. It's not even my sport. I think the first words I ever said to him were, "I like your deadlift, but you bench like a caveman."
Just like that.
That's our love story.
So was he your introduction to Strongwoman then?
Yeah, definitely. He kept kind of teasing me, you know, when are you going to do a comp? I said, you know, I'll do a comp the day you do a powerlifting comp. He did rock up to a comp wearing a singlet that was about 5 sizes too small. It was so homoerotic, it was off the charts, just to get me to do a Strongwoman comp. So at that point, I had no choice. I had to kind of back up my end of the deal, and I did my first comp, and I loved it so much that I promptly retired on the spot as a powerlifter. I was like, this is my future. This is where I'm supposed to be.
It's way more fun, isn't it?
Way more fun.
Way more fun. And what about you, Rebecca? What age were you when you started lifting?
I started lifting to supplement like rugby to start off with. So when I went to university, I joined a rugby team, and then I went on to captain that rugby team and play semi-professionally for a Premiership level rugby club, because I did want to play for Wales. But then I had like a really bad back injury from that, where I couldn't walk for 6 months. I was on morphine, I couldn't do a sit up, and I gained like quite a bit of weight. And then kind of about 16 months after the injury, I met Paul on Plenty of Fish, and he just agreed to kind of just coach me to lose some weight. And he just decided that I was quite strong, and he'd like done a lot of competing and stuff, kind of more local level. And he's like an absolute geek of the sport. He knows every kind of fact, almost like you can literally spout competition results from like 10 years ago or something. And yeah, he kind of entered me into my first competition, which at the time it was UK Strongest Woman. And I won that, but there was only kind of back then like 3 girls in my class. It was nowhere near the level that it is now, and that was only kind of like 6 years ago. So it's like crazy how much the sport has grown from then to what it is now.
Yeah, it really is incredible. And, you know, women like you are a big part of it. Rhiannon, you put on competitions almost week in, week out, don't you? You never seem to not be running a competition.
That's what it feels like, especially with like all the nationals and the championships. The aim is to just, offer something for everybody in the sport, be it, teens, masters, the juniors, the natural side of things. The under 80 scene in the UK for the men effectively collapsed. So, we've kind of revived that. And yeah, the idea is to just expand the sport. And like Becca said, only, 5-6 years ago, it was pretty barren compared to what it is now. I feel like that's fair to say. And especially things like the standards in the opens and the 64s has gone through the roof. They were repping this year on the log. In fact, both classes at Worlds were repping more than the world record was 5 years ago. And when you think kind of that, like the men's has never had that quick progress in such a short space of time. It's gone insane.
No, for the men, it's been much more linear, and you can see why with the men, because, they've got the TV coverage and they've got the big shows and everything and the recognition. But for the women, it's much more precarious, isn't it? When there's only a couple of people putting on these shows for the women, and they're doing it very much for the love of it, because they're not really making much money. There's not much prestige in it, is there?
No. But yeah, 5-6 years ago, it was definitely at that point. And it is. We now have. Even like Giants Live have taken on the women now with the Two Nations show. WUS are now backing it. Rogue is now involved. We're making big progress very, very quickly.
So let's go back to Worlds last year then, because that was actually the first time I met you both properly, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Rebecca, was that your first World's Strongest Woman?
No, I did enter Worlds in 2019 as well. But I was really ill, like in the prep for that. I was supposed to kind of lose a bit of weight and kind of come in more prepped, but I think I had COVID at the time, like, because I was ill for about 2 months beforehand, like to the point where I had to have an asthma inhaler. I was on 6 courses of antibiotics in the space of 2 months. And in the whole of that prep, I had 2 decent sessions prepping for it. Like I was really like not in a good way, like to come out into World's Strongest Woman. But I came 7th, and I was quite happy with that, considering like the circumstances and it being like my first kind of global competition and the first time kind of competing against Donna Moore, because I think that was the first time that I did compete against her. So yeah, that kind of gave me the drive to like come back and smash it. And obviously 2020 didn't happen, so it gave me a chance then to kind of cut my weight down and kind of focus on the weaknesses a lot more and come back more kind of well-rounded.
And Rhiannon, you weren't coming back as the returning champion, were you? But obviously, sorry, I know it might be a sensitive subject. I know it was at the weekend, but I'm sure you're okay now.
It's sport, you know. You're always going to get your heart broken. I take a lot of risks. I take a lot of gambles, and they usually pay off. So it didn't this time. Kit broke, but it's sport at the end of the day. I was probably due it, to be honest. Like I said, I take a lot of risks, and I usually get away with them. So I think I was definitely due it, biting me in the butt at some point. But yeah, it's where that last year's
what was
Worlds
this
was.
risk that you took? Because you were leading, weren't you, going into the Atlas Stones? And this is usually like a banker event for you. What happened, Rhianon? Talk to us.
I am like going into I think it was a 4 or 5 point lead going into Atlas Stones. It's pretty much money in the bank at that point. And I got out there. My decision was to use sleeves that were breaking. And I thought about it in the morning, and I was like, just stick with what we've used. They've held so far, they'll hold. And that decision was ultimately my downfall. First stone, they just dissolved. They just completely and utterly fell apart. I managed to load a few stones without tacky, but ultimately hit a bit of a dead end, and lost. I think all I needed to do was come in the top 8, and I think I came in 9th. It was something like that. Like, it really wasn't. And yeah, it was really heartbreaking, but at the same time, how amazing everybody was, you know. The supplier of the tacky actually came over and was like, I am so sorry. Like, he felt responsible. And I was like, don't be silly. Like, this is, you know, sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. Like, it's okay. But, you know, my team as well, you know, how much they were just there for me. It was a really kind of heartwarming moment. And, you know, I went over to Shannon, and it's like her first big win. So obviously I know what that feels like. I've stood where she was going to stand, and I know how much of a big moment it is. So, you know, it wasn't my day, it wasn't my time. But it doesn't necessarily need to be a negative thing, if that makes sense.
No. And you were, obviously, you still came second overall, didn't you? But you also won a separate little award, didn't you? What was that? It was like Spirit of the Games, or?
Yeah, that was the Spirit of the Game. So that was quite funny, actually. They called us over, and I thought they were going to start the presentation. Obviously 64's the first, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, there's no Kate. You know, my Kate had just made the podium for the first year, so we were over the moon with that. And I'm like, there's no Kate, and they kept telling me we don't need Kate. I'm freaking out because I'm now thinking that we've got it wrong, and she's not come third. And they had literally kind of just pushed me out. And I had genuinely no idea until they kind of announced what they were doing, and that me and Joey had won effectively, the Spirit of the Games, the Sportsmanship Award, which, especially having had just such a heartbreaking moment, to be acknowledged and credited for kind of like the effort that you put in. At the end of the day, like, that's trophies collect dust, but it's things like that we're remembered for. So that was a really sweet moment.
Yeah. So for those, obviously, most people who are watching this won't have been there, but Rhianon is competing, but she's also got all of these people competing who she coaches, who she's looking after and dealing with and giving advice to and supporting. So, and Rebecca, on the flip side, you and your husband are very much over there. I know he coaches you, but talk us through his role.
Well, to be honest, he's been absolutely amazing through everything. Like, he coaches me like full time in person as well. So I've got him there for every single training session. So he's like my loader, my agony aunt, my like person who tells me just get it done. He's like my cameraman now, and like he literally helps me through every single session and through every competition as well. Like, the knowledge that he's got just kind of massively helps him to like adapt my sessions and stuff on the fly if need be. And like, obviously competition day, he carries all my bags, he makes sure that I don't lift a finger like the week before a competition. Like, he does all the housework, things like that. And
nice.
like, he's dead good. Like, so yeah, it's like more like a team effort, really. Like, the amount that he kind of does behind the scenes so I can switch off So all I have to do is go to training, get my session done, and then that's it. I don't think about my training. I don't think about anything else, like in the time that I have like away from the gym. So he does all that. He takes all of that pressure and stress off. So that massively helps me. It's a bit like Tom Stoltman as well. Like he likes to just go in and get things done and then kind of forget about training once he's done with it. And I'm kind of more the same. So it's really good.
He does strike me as someone who's quite protective of you, and I guess that makes sense. He's trying to protect that sort of bubble that of not having to worry about anything that he's created for you.
Yeah, definitely. Like it massively helps like my mentality. Like I can literally just focus on getting the job done. So it's really good. And yeah, I don't think I'd be here without him, like without what he's done for me.
Do you have fun with it though? Because a lot of the girls, when they're competing and it's them and their friend, like Rhianon, for example, what am I trying to ask? Like, what drives you? What do you love about Strongwoman when you're competing?
Like especially something like Worlds. You know, we go to weigh in the day before and we spend all day at the venue because you've got hundreds of friends from around the world that you can just catch up with, have fun with. You know, on the day, I need a couple of minutes before the event, switch on, do the event, effectively just doing my job, doing what I need to do. And then, you know, it's back chatting with the girls. And it's such I've made real, like, lifelong friends. I've always kind of had this idea that, like, I wasn't a girl's girl. And it just turned out that I hadn't met my girls. I'm definitely a girl's girl, and Strongwomen are just the best. It's an amazing environment that you're just accepted for who you are and what you can offer, and I think that's brilliant.
What about you, Rebecca?
Yeah, it's like it's almost the same thing. I know, like obviously it's kind of like me and Paul, we go to the competition together, but it's so good to see everyone from all across the world, like people that I've not seen in a long time, like over in the States and things like that. It's so good to be able to catch up with them. And it's just amazing. Like I love competing. I love being there and kind of showing off my hard work in front of everyone and kind of being there to help inspire people to like to be who they want to be and do what they want to do. Like I've had so many messages from especially plus size women that have said that they've had the confidence to go to the gym because they've seen me do it. Like they've had the confidence to go and wear sports bras and leggings to the gym because they've seen that I'm doing it and I can like help break down the barriers for that. So like that's amazing to know that me putting myself out there is helping other people as well. So that's like another part of the sport that I really love.
Yeah, we all know how important representation is. And obviously, as the female side of it grows, it's attracting more and more really good athletes, which is why the standard is rising so quickly. Like Britain's Strongest Woman, for example, and I know you two will be cool with me saying this because you two fall into these weight classes, but the under 64s and the open weights especially, they are insane, the standard there. It's like a world standard.
Especially in Britain,
Yes.
like the last 5 years of the open class World's Strongest Woman has been British. The current World's Strongest Woman is British in 3 of the 5 weight classes now. Like that's insane. Obviously, like Britain is like tiny in comparison to like the massive countries like America. Like it's just crazy the standard in Britain. So like going to a UK Strongest Woman is almost like a World's Strongest Woman at this point.
Yeah. I do feel though that we have some big advantages over here. Like unlike America, we can travel around so easy. So say Rhiannon's putting on a competition in Chaos Gym. Doesn't matter if I'm in the opposite end of the country because it's still only a 4-hour drive maybe. So, and obviously we have companies like Giants Live that are absolutely massive over here and drawing big crowds, and it gets the TV time as well. So I do feel like Strongman and Strongwoman in Britain especially, we're very lucky, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely.
I do think that's got kind of a lot to play with, just like the infrastructure of how the sports worked. You know, speaking to like the American promoters, like how do we put on a Giants Live show? You know, how do we fill these stadiums like Giants Live is doing? And there just isn't the amount of fans per square mile. Like you said, anywhere in the country can get to anywhere in the country for a show and back. And yeah, having that available is a huge. We get the big shows that we run. You know, we get the best girls from the very north and the very south and everybody in between, and it offers a much more consistent just infrastructure where we can push things forward. But you know, even like Preston, we've got me, Kate, and Bex, like 3 world record holders within 10-minute walk of each other. Like, there's nowhere in the world that you get that.
No, that's actually insane, isn't it? So we've got some benefits to being on a very crowded small island.
We're cramped, but the sport is good.
Yeah, swings and roundabouts. But how amazing would it be? Because I don't feel that OSG gets nearly enough love as it deserves. How amazing would it be to see that packed out with fans? Because it's such an impressive operation that Lynn and his wife run over there. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I still don't know how he does it. And he does it for his love of it and nothing else. I don't think it rewards him at all.
You know, like especially when my girls have got questions and stuff, I'm like, find it out. Leave Lynn alone. You know, he does work the majority of the year to pull off this one weekend. Yeah, like you said, the amount of work that goes into it. Just the amount of emails that he responds to. And, you know, his daughters get involved. It's a big family affair for them. And it does bring the best of the best from all around the world in every weight category to one focal point, which I think is incredible.
And let's hope that that can start to get bigger and better every year as well, because it really deserves it. It is the world championship for all the weight classes and all of the women as well. It's a big deal.
And he's done so much to, like, the first OSG versus the one last time has grown so much as well. Like, obviously with all the sponsors that he's brought in, he's worked so hard to make sure that there's prize money now. Like, and it's just great to see how it's like grown from where it was even just a couple of years ago. Like, he's doing so much to help the sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
So shout out to Lynn Morehouse. Go follow him if you don't already. He's the man behind the official Strongman Games. Let's talk about training then, because I haven't spoken about training with any of the women. And some people in the comments are like, why didn't you ask about their training? I don't care about training. But Rebecca.
That's just a job.
Yeah, I'm just going to be honest. Rebecca, before we went on air, you were saying that you've been to the gym and you were there for like 3 hours. Is that normal? Is that a normal training session for you?
Yeah, typically I'll train around 4 to 5 times a week. A lot of my sessions are around 3 hours long. When I'm in comp prep, when I'm in like off season, like I'll do some kind of bodybuilding type sessions, which can be about an hour long, and then mixed in with some kind of like longer sessions. Because of the weights that I deal with and things like that, I kind of have longer rest periods. So like Paul started timing them now, so like I'll have like between about 4 and 5 minutes like for my top sets and things like that. Like today I was doing axle deadlifts and I was doing like I think did 4 or 5 sets of 10, and I had like 3.5 minutes between each of those, and then that soon adds up. And then like when you're doing your next exercise and things like that, it's just takes a long time to train and move all the weight as well, like the loading and unloading and setting things up. It's not like I'm lifting straight on for 3 hours. Like it takes a lot of time to get everything set up.
Yeah. And is that a local gym that you train at or your own gym?
I train at a dedicated Strongman gym in Liverpool, and they've been really good with me. Any equipment that I need, they'll either supply it, or if I supply it, they'll let me have it in the gym. So like if there's a competition coming up and I need something, I'll literally I'll ask him if he's got it. I'll ask him if he can source it. If not, I'll just get it, and it's there then for everyone to use. And then we are trying to kind of build our own home gym. We've got some kit at our house now in the shed. We were going to build it in like January time, but Paul got really ill, so we kind of like put that at a back burner. But yeah, hopefully like we'll get our own little gym in the back garden set up.
Is Paul doing okay now?
Yeah, he's a lot better than what he was. He was diagnosed with heart failure and his heart was working at like 10%. But now it's working at like 23%, which it should be kind of 55 is the average percent that the heart should be working. So it's still only half what it should be.
Yeah.
But he's been told that he has to kind of like retire from the sport now, and he's only doing like really light kind of circuit training at the minute. But he's going to focus on grip strength and his grip competitions. So
Have
that's
to get him versus Uncle Lars.
honestly, like I would pay to see that. Like that would be quite good because he's like world standard at grip. Like he's closed like some grippers that only like about a handful of people have closed in the whole world and things like that. So he's got,
Has he done the Captains of Crush #4?
yeah.
Has
He's
he?
he's
That's
spread it quite
very
close
good.
now. Yeah,
Wow.
he's world standard. He came third in the World Grip Championships when he was ill. So he's got like a really good grip.
I was about to say old man strength, but that's probably not fair. Sorry, Paul. What I meant was, it doesn't matter with some people. Their body could be failing them, but their grip. Mark Felix would be the same one day.
Yeah.
Bless him. But you challenged Loz yourself, did you not, to a grip challenge? I think we definitely need to make this happen.
Yeah, I'm a two-time world grip champion as well, and I don't know if you know who Elizabeth and David Horn are.
Yes, I do, yeah.
Elizabeth Horn had been undefeated in grip for 22 years until I went and competed with her, and I beat her at the British Grip Championships in 2018, I think it was. So it was like that was probably one of my kind of best wins like in my like kind of lifetime of competing. Obviously World's Strongest Woman is special to me, but to beat Elizabeth Horn, who's literally the greatest of all time in the grip sport, was like something special.
And she's very much a specialist as well in what she does. She doesn't also do Strongwoman, does she?
No, she did do arm wrestling at some point as well.
Okay.
But she did compete in Strongwoman back in the day. I'm pretty sure she competed against Kristen Rhodes. She used to kind of do the World's Strongest Woman back before, like in the early 2000s.
Awesome. Yeah. I think at one point, World's Strongest Woman was actually held at the same time as World's Strongest Man in the same venue. So we almost got there at one point. I just don't think the sport of Strongwoman was ready at that point, was it? It just wasn't developed enough. There weren't enough really good athletes like there are, you know, if you compare it to now, not being disrespectful to the women back then. Oh, this cat is very distracting. But Rhianon, your training then, obviously you don't live in Chaos Gym, but you work there. It is your gym. How many hours a day do you train?
I'm very similar to Becca, and for very similar reasons. You know, when we tell people it's like, you know, 2, 3, sometimes even up to 4 hours. I think we get a little bit too much credit for being dedicated, and I'm like, no, a lot of that time is sat down, a lot of it. And also, like I said, you know, with the big lifts, you need the rest, but you also need to kind of mentally psych yourself up with some of these big lifts, which kind of takes time in itself, and you need to mentally come down from the lifts. And yeah, it takes a long time, but we spend minutes actually lifting weights, and a lot of time sat there resting, thinking about the next set.
And speaking of very big lifts, just last weekend, like I watched it and I was like, it's mind blowing to me. 282.5 kilos you lifted. It's at 62.5 kilos you weighed in. So it's 4.5 times body weight. You've talked about 5 times body weight, which will be over 300 kilos. You're only 17.5 kilos off of the open weight women's world record in Strongwoman. Talk to us about that lift, Rhianon. That was pretty crazy.
To be honest, it's definitely one of my most proud lifts of my career. Kind of not for the reason that people think. The 282 itself isn't the kind of. It was the hardest prep of my life by a mile, mentally and physically. I hit like a back-to-back world record in the axle deadlift, and then came back and did one in powerlifting, and then 24 hours later I was in hospital. We got pretty bad pneumonia, which messed everything up. My mental health just absolutely plummeted. I really didn't think it was going to be there right up until actually the night before. And the record was 272, and I said to Luke, I was like, look, let's just chip it, let's play it safe. We've got a lot riding on this. You know, I'm about to launch an ebook. Let's just, you know, chip it by a kilo, call it a day. And he was actually just speaking to the novices at the comp the night before, how much they said that like I inspired them. And the main thing is that they were telling me about how they're going to step up and they're going to be brave and they're going to take risks. And I couldn't listen to that and hear how much of an inspiration I was from that point of view, and then do something, pick the easy road. And when we got back to the hotel, I said to Luke, I was like, 282. I was like, something we've never pulled. I was like, just go all in. I was like, I'm not standing here as these girls' idol and role model, having picked the easier lift. I was like, I want to know that we were brave. And if it doesn't pay off, it doesn't pay off. I was like, I can live with that. Came off the ground and I knew things weren't great. Did not come off the ground very well. I knew at that point we were in for a fight, but I wasn't for giving up. And I'm really proud of myself for how shit I was feeling in the run up, to then actually having the courage to do something crazy in the last minute.
I've honestly never seen, I've seen very few fights like it. Mikhail Shivlakov comes to mind, and he's very much the same type of athlete as you, I feel. It is literally that till the wheels come off mentality. I don't think I've ever seen anyone, other than maybe you, Mikhail, grind so hard and work so hard through a lift to get such a lovely lockout at the end of it. That must have felt insane.
I mean, the irony of the only thing that was going through my head at the time was the barbell was red hot. We worried about me. We worried about the platform. Nobody will. It's entirely my responsibility. It's on me. I did not think about the barbell at any point. And all that was going through my head as I was locking out was that my hands were on fire. It felt like I had on a kettle. But yeah, to lock that out was just, it meant so much. It really did.
That was crazy. And Rebecca, I remember you going for the Atlas Stone world record at the Arnold's Record Breakers this year, because I don't think anyone got that 300. No, it was 400-pound stone, wasn't it? 400-pound stone.
Yeah. I have done a 400-pound stone in training to a 3-foot platform. But on the day, that was just an absolute nightmare of a stone. And some of the girls beforehand, I won't name names, but just plastered the stone in tacky to the point where it was literally swimming in a pool of tacky and it was stuck to the floor. So they gave us all a second attempt and they flipped the platform over. It was that bad. To try and see if anyone could get the stone without all of the tacky being all over the floor. But I think everyone was a little bit sapped by that point.
How many times are you going to do that stone?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it went on for a while, didn't it? I was filming it. I think I stopped filming after a while. My arms were getting tired.
I think you got did you get the closest of anybody? Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, I kind of got it to the top of my knees, but I didn't lap it. So I got a good kind of about that much of kind of air on it, but I just couldn't kind of lap it at that point. I think I was a little bit spent. But I do think that I want to be the first woman to lift a 400-pound stone. I was going to do it at the England Strongest Man half-time that Glenn Ross is putting on. But he's since obviously added the women's category, so that's going to be the halftime show now, the women's kind of final event for England's Strongest Woman for his organisation.
Right.
So yeah, hopefully that'll happen.
And looking at the events that have recently been released for OSG this year, how do you feel about them? So just for those that don't know, oh God, I've got to remember now. So I know we've got a sandbag to shoulder. We've got a Hummer-tired deadlift, but it's actually standard height because you'll be standing on a raised platform. So a bit like they do at Giants Live. Obviously, there's the stone series, the car walk again, but this time it's going to be in the final. There's some sort of, I think, is it a farmer's walk series?
Yeah, it's a farmer's medley, we think.
Yes, and also a dumbbell medley. Have I forgotten anything?
Viking press and a Viking.
Viking press as well, yeah. And I think it's going to be facing outwards Viking press. Yeah. So how are you both, Rebecca, if you want to go first, how are you feeling for those events or about those events?
I love them. Viking press is my best overhead because I have the coordination of a goldfish. like a blind goldfish. So the Viking press takes all of like the coordination element out of pressing, so I can literally just use my strength rather than with like a log. Like my coordination is just awful. So I love the Viking press. The car walk, I'm really good at yoke. Last year at OSG, I dropped the yoke because like my knee just went into complete spasm halfway through. But I still got third place because my pick and my run was that quick before I dropped it. Dumbbell, I've matched Donna Moore at UK Strongest Woman with a dumbbell for reps. And just last week at Wales Strongest Woman, I got 14 reps with a 42 kilo dumbbell. So I'm really excited about the dumbbell. The axle deadlift, I'm really excited about that one because like my deadlift, most of my power is off the floor. Like my usual struggle is like at lockout. So I won't like struggle as much as maybe some of the other athletes that rely on the bend of a deadlift bar.
Okay.
Trying to think, stones, I love stones. And the only one that I really kind of need to work on a little bit more is the sandbag to shoulder, but that's a really new event to me. I've only trained it maybe 4 times and we've got a long time to kind of improve that. So yeah, I love all the events. Obviously the farmers as well. There's going to be, it's 45 meters. So the first 30 meters is going to be with one weight and then the last 15 meters is going to be a heavier weight. Obviously I'm 2-time grip champion, so I'm hoping that that's going to be like a really nice heavy farmers, and hopefully that'll kind of maybe kind of separate out some of the girls as well and kind of test some grip in the competition too. So I do think that obviously with the 17 weeks now we've got, that I will get like a really good prep in, and if I come in and injured, I do think that I will get that second title, hopefully.
And what does an athlete of your standard consider to be a heavy farmers, just for a layman like me?
I've done 150 kilo hand for 10 meters. So I'm hoping that maybe kind of, obviously I don't think you'd do 150.
I don't think it's going to be that heavy. I think that's more like the master weight.
Like a 300-pound farmers, because I know that some of the other girls have done that weight as well.
Okay.
So I do think like if the lighter weight is maybe about 250 pound and then it goes into 300 pound, it would separate the girls based on grip strength as well as like farmer's speed. So I'm hoping for kind of that about.
He hasn't released the weights yet, has he?
No.
I know Lynn puts a lot of thought into it, because speaking to him about events the other week, he's like, yes, haven't looked at weights. Wow. Or he had looked at weights. I need to address my weights matrix. He has a matrix. He literally leaves no stone unturned. But what about you, Rhianon? Do you think these are a set of events where you could get the World's Strongest Woman title this year?
Yeah. Like
we're a loaded question, sorry.
we're kind of at the, I don't kind of dislike any event. You know, you need to be kind of good across the board. I definitely back myself going into this kind of stuff, and yeah, we don't have the events yet. Sorry, the weights yet. I'm just praying for as heavy as possible. I tend to come into my own when it's heavy. Like Beck said, I'm praying that the Opens have got at least a 300 farmers as their last run, because that'll trickle down quite nicely into something heavy for the 64s. But I don't see why there's any, you know, I've got the world record in over half them, I think. So there's no reason why we should be at the top 3 in any event, which should secure the win, really.
Yeah,
that's all we got to do.
Consistency is so important at that level. But like, with the women I've had on before, a couple of them, they're very, very, very high level, but a couple of them are masters, and we've talked about whether or not it's right for them to do the masters. Would you like it heavy? So would you consider going into a heavier weight category, into the 73s or the 82s? I mean, you only disadvantage yourself by doing it, but you're a woman who has competed against the men, haven't you?
I am, like, nationally, kind of like when I'm at home, I compete typically as a heavyweight, again, just to experience the heavier weights, but also to experience the higher level of competition. And the same thing with the men, really. It's not necessarily about bringing the trophies home as about just getting that chance to do heavier comps. But in terms of kind of like my main titles, my Britain's, Worlds, I'm a career 64. Like that's I'm 5 foot. I sit around the 135 pound mark. So yeah, I'm a career 64 for the big stuff.
Yeah, no, I totally understand, because your your height or lack thereof, it does become a massive disadvantage, doesn't it? Especially, I mean, look at Rebecca. What are you, Rebecca? 6'2", 6'3"?
Well, I'm 6'3.5"
You're
officially.
growing still.
You know, there's a lot of the time that the height is a disadvantage, but it can be worked around. There are some events that the height is, like the tire at UK's, I couldn't reach the top of the tire, which was hilarious. And then things like a truck pull, if we've got a rope and both points are fixed above my waist, I'll actually just come off the ground. Like once I take the tension, like my legs aren't long enough to actually stay on the floor, and my weight isn't heavy enough to plant me. So I just become kind of suspended between the rope I'm pulling and the truck, with my little legs just dangling. So it's,
I want to do that so badly. Please.
I'll tag you in some videos. It's quite comical when I just come off the floor. But as long as like we're not up against something like that, it's relatively fair game.
Oh my goodness, I just have the most wholesomely hilarious images in my head of
you. It's as funny as it sounds like it is. You know, the first time it happened, I was like, what do we do? What do we put rocks in my feet? What do we do here?
Oh my goodness. That's the sort of thing that would happen to me, Rhianon. But usually because I did something wrong. So obviously both training hard for World's Strongest Woman. Rebecca really hoping to get that Arnold's invitation next year. What we do know that there's going to be another WUS women's competition. Rebecca, I'll come to you, but Rhianon, you are a career under 64s, but if the opportunity arose, would you be willing to, because it's, you know, you go there as the highest in your sport, one of the absolute best in your weight class. Is it hard to go against these women? If you got the opportunity, would you do a competition like WUS against those women, even knowing that you're
absolutely? Like I just qualified for the Show Classic on those grounds. Yeah, you look at my height and you look at my weight, but if you ignore that and you look at my lifts, you know, I can press north of 100 kilos. My deadlift's north of 600 pounds. My stone's there, my yoke's there, my dumbbell's there. Would I be the favorite to win something like WUS or the Show Classic? No. I wouldn't be gambling any money on me coming in first, but I definitely think I could hold my own, cause some damage. I won 2 of the events at UK's heavyweights. I could definitely represent lightweight women, and it would be great to see.
I find your mentality so interesting, because I know so many people that won't make it harder for themselves because they're so scared to fail, but you don't seem to have that in there. Like you will go for it, and I guess that's a big part of the reason you've been so successful.
Yeah, there's no shame in you know, UK's, I did the heavyweights. I won 2 events and then had a terrible second day with the truck pull and the tire flip, and I came in 6th, which is my worst placing of my entire career, but it was not a bad day. I gave it absolutely everything I had. I was brave. I took risks. And the top 5 girls just performed better and ultimately deserved above. Same with the deadlift now. You know, the 2 boys that I'm chasing are the 2 60-kilo boys that have done 300. They are the best pound-for-pound deadlifters that walk the planet. And it's just getting rid of that asterisk of being a woman. I don't want to be the best woman deadlifter. I want to be the best pound for pound. So it's you need to compare yourself to the men and to athletes of a higher weight category if you're going to keep pushing.
It's a really commendable attitude. And I hope I don't sound condescending when I say it, because, you know, I hear Loz is a coach, as you know, and being a coach kind of just means being a counselor sometimes. And I hear him, you know, having the reassuring talks of his athletes before competition who are terrified of failure to the point where, you know, to their detriment. So it's really amazing that you do everything that you do, and with your head held high as well.
You know, I have an amazing support group as well. Like my mum, obviously calling my mum after every event is something I do, and I just want to be able to tell her that I gave it everything. It might not have paid off, but in the moment, I did everything I could with everything I had. When I called her and told her that I'd lost Worlds, she was like, "Did you mess up, or did you give it everything?" I said, I gave it everything. I used every trick I had, every trick in the book, and I did what I could with what I had in that moment. And, you know, for her to just tell me that she's proud of me, like that's what people are proud of. If you have given everything you had, it doesn't really matter the outcome. You can walk away with your head held high.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, it's how you made people feel, and, you know, that's what they remember ultimately, not your result.
Exactly.
This damn cat. And Rebecca, you must have been absolutely chomping at the bit watching WUS unfold. Did you watch it live as it was on last year?
Yeah, I did. I did try and get an invite to WUS as well, but I think I was a little bit too late, and the invitations had already been like sent out. Because when we found out the events, I was just like, I need to go to this competition. There was like a 10 Atlas Stone series, and at the time I'd done 170 kilo Atlas Stone. There was like 300 kilo yoke, and I was just like, I'm very speedy with 300 kilo yoke. And then obviously the farmers and things like that. Like at the time, I'd unofficially done 150 kilo hand farmers. Like I shown him that I was like among the best in the world in like 4 of the 5 events. And unfortunately, I didn't get the invite, which was a shame, but it was just amazing to watch that competition, especially Annabelle. She was insane. And then to come back to Jason, the strongest woman, I was just like, I was half like wanting to open her up and check if there was a robot underneath. Like,
how do you think you would have cut? Because it was 2.5 hours from the start of the first women's event to the end. How do you think you would have handled that?
I like that style of competition. But then I also like the style of competition of OSG, where you do 2 events in the space of 7 hours or something, 6 hours. But yeah, like Wales Strongest Woman that me and Luke ran about a month ago, like that was almost the same, where you're kind of like done with one event, right onto the next. And I like the quick pacing of just getting it all done and out of the way. You don't have to deal with cooling down and warming back up again. You just kind of like ready to go into the next one, and you can kind of forget about the last event a lot quicker rather than like kind of mull over it. And yeah, I like that kind of event.
Yeah, I do think promoters running Strongman or Strongwoman so efficiently could end up ultimately being a big part of its growth. Because I know there are sports that can go on all day, snooker and stuff like that. But if you want to appeal to, you know, TV companies, you need a package that you can say, look, this is it. It's jam-packed with action, and it's going to be around about this. Not, you know, it's going to take all bloody day.
Like the giant live shows, like they're about 3 hours long. It's almost like the perfect length for people to come in, sit down and watch the show live, or even just on the live stream at home. It's like it's not too long, it's not kind of too short either. It just feels like it's the right kind of length.
It's just right, yeah. And there's so much going on that it doesn't even feel like 3 or 4, even if it goes on for 4, it doesn't feel that long anyway, does it? Because it's continuous action. So what are the ultimate goals for both of you two then? I know you've both got world titles in your weight classes. You've both done incredible. I mean, Rebecca, when we're going through yours, you hold every title that you could hold right now nationally. So you have Wales, UK's, Europe's, and Worlds. So what don't you have? Obviously, you haven't been to the Arnold chat. I guess I'm answering the question for you.
I do want to win the Arnold Pro. That's on the bucket list. and I want to beat the record for the amount of World's Strongest Woman titles that have been won. Like, I'm only 27. I'm still like a baby in like the weight of the sport. I think the last 2 times I've competed at World's Strongest Woman, I was the youngest person in the final both times. So I feel like I've still got time to kind of like grow into the sport as well. Like, the way that I train is like with longevity in mind. So I am hoping to kind of, my aim is 5 World's Strongest Woman titles and hopefully go down as the GOAT eventually. It's going to be hard shoes to fill with the likes of Donna Moore. But yeah, I'm up for a challenge.
So you're in it for the long haul then? Not
Yeah,
a quick
definitely.
get in, get out. That's amazing. I look forward to seeing what you might achieve in that time, because you're still, how long have you been lifting? How many years?
Seriously, about 6
Seriously,
years.
for woman.
Yeah, about 6 years.
Okay. Oh, it's actually, you've got a good amount of lifting experience behind you then. And what about you, Rhianon? Do you want to be, I know you want to be the best at everything that you do, but do you have like, are you happy if you stopped Strongwoman tomorrow, for example? I know you wouldn't, but would you be happy and satisfied? Or are there other things on your list that you really want to achieve?
There's a couple of it. I think obviously the main one's got to be the 5 times bodyweight deadlift. Like I've got to have that before we hang the boots up. Same as Becca, you know, the multiple world wins. And then I want to break every world record, I think, as well. I think we've just got log to do as a lightweight, and then we've got a couple more to do as a middleweight, and then just kind of working up with them really. There's a running joke that somebody said to me when I first started that you can't hold every world record. And I thought that was a rule. I thought that was a thing of the sport that they won't let you. And they were like, no, it's physically impossible. It can't be done. So with that in mind, I would like to collect them all.
How dare you say it can't be done?
I thought it was a rule that like, some top dog it is like, yeah, you're not allowed to hold them all. So yeah, I'd like to just to get to prove something to myself and back them.
Brilliant. Right. It has been an hour, and I did promise I would not keep you for longer than an hour, because I appreciate you two so much and the time that you've given me, because not only are you incredible athletes, you're both amazing women as well. And I cannot wait to see you both at OSG this year, because me and Uncle Lozzie are coming back.
Great.
So I can get some pics
So
and videos.
excited.
Yes, no, it's going to be brilliant. It's a great time out in Daytona. So thank you both so much for joining me. Rebecca, I know you hate social media, but if people want to follow you on social media, what's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram is Rebecca Roberts Strongwoman, and I do have a YouTube channel that I'm trying to grow as well, which again is Rebecca Roberts Strongwoman. And so all of my training for World's Strongest Woman will be on there.
Awesome. I will be sure to put the links to both of those in the description. And Rhianon, where can people find you?
Instagram's probably the main one. Rhianon.lovelace.krstrength. Yeah, that's probably the best place to keep in touch with me. Yeah,
you're not doing the YouTube thing?
No, right now we've just got too much going on with the events business and the gym. We've got a lot of kind of outside competition goals that we want to hit in the sport. We're going to be sponsoring a lot more athletes this year and stuff like that. So the YouTube is on the back burner for now. But I would definitely go and check out Becca's and stay up to date with that.
Yeah, I can just about keep on top of the YouTube, but we've got a TikTok now as well, and I don't even know what I'm doing.
I'm not doing that one.
I end up just wasting time on it, looking at everyone else's and posting nothing. So what a waste. Anyway, I will bid you both farewell, and thank you so much for joining me once again.